The first week is in the books for the new WRL regional format. We have highlights from the matchup between the last two APFL champions, and we had one game in the Alliance that was decided by just one fantasy passing yard. All of this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast sponsored by Sport Management Solutions, your one-stop shop for all your athletic communication needs. How is everybody tonight? I think we have figured this out. MJ's out there. She says week one is in the book. Let's roll. VJJ is out there. What's up, Commish? Hey, so I got a text message just a little bit ago saying you and E-Thugs are trying to put in some trades, but they're not going through because it needs commissioner's approval. I think that's probably a leftover setting from the way that we had the trade set up from last year. So let me look into that, and I will get back to you guys. I'm coming in hot straight from baseball practice, if you couldn't tell. And I apologize for the opening be a little jumbled. With this being the week one recap, a whole lot more to say than we normally have. And with that, we are going to start off with, he said 10-4. Thanks, brother. Hey, so we put out in Discord a couple of days ago that we thought that we were going to switch over to OBS. In fact, we did the very first episode of end of the third quarter on Sunday in OBS because apparently our subscription to StreamYard has ran out. Toby out there as well. Toby, thank you for showing up, man. Lots of props for you tonight. So Toby's name is going to get thrown around quite a bit. And Bruce E-Thugs out there as well saying, hey, what's up? And then he's involved in those trades with VJJ. So we did the end of the third quarter on Sunday night. We had to use OBS. It was really, really ugly because we had lost our membership to StreamYard. We thought we were good until like October, and then we realized it was just 2 days previous that we had lost it. But they want an astronomical, crazy number for the new membership. We're literally going from like $20 a month to $36 a month, and I don't believe that the updated features warrant that. So I was trying to figure a way to get around it, and I think I have figured it out, but we'll see how this goes tonight. So probably not as heavy on the graphics as normal, but still good graphics tonight. And then we'll see what we can put together before into the third quarter on Sunday and before next week's show. Hey, so we'll start off tonight with some NFL news. Probably not a big surprise to a lot of people, but I was scouring the interwebs to try to find out some information from you if I could. So CMC, of course, was a big topic of discussion on Monday night with him not going. The latest rumors are he is a long shot to play in week 2. And I know a lot of you were working the waiver wires today. We're going to talk about those in a second to possibly try to find a replacement if you have CMC. So Rome Odunze also sustained an MCL sprain. And after an MRI, he is poised to miss some time. So if you have that wide receiver, be prepared for him possibly missing time. T. Higgins is making progress in his recovery from his hamstring injury. But as we said, I think on Discord earlier, we're not sure if he's still playing yet or not. CMC is out, MJ is saying, so that must be an official word now. Oh, you've been missing the show during the preseason, so I'm glad you're here. Let's go, and we'll work on those trades for you guys either tonight or early in the morning. I'll make sure that I look over for those for you guys for those. David Njoku, tight end for the Cleveland Browns, is already out Sunday against the Jags. Jake Ferguson, tight end for the Dallas Cowboys, unless status has changed, he has not been ruled out for his game this upcoming week. Jordan Love, quarterback for Green Bay Packers, not a candidate for the IR, but will probably still miss 3 to 6 weeks due to an MCL sprain. And then the last one to talk about, of course, is Puka Nacua has been placed on the IR. And according to the report I read this morning, we will not see him until probably week 7 at the earliest. So people working the waiver wire for any replacements for Puka as well. So big names that were in the waiver wire on the WRL side and the APFL side. We don't talk about these very much, but I thought it would be a good little add to the show this week, maybe even this whole year. New York Jets wide receiver Alan Lazard added quite a bit. New Orleans tight end Foster Moreau added quite a bit. LA Chargers running back J.K. Dobbins. San Francisco running back Jordan Mason to replace CMC if you had him. Hopefully you got them in the moves. And then Baltimore tight end Isaiah Likely. Big names being picked up on the waiver wire today. So many early injuries. Yes, agreed. I'm getting bit by that on a couple of my teams as well. VJJ agrees with you, says no kidding. I'm wondering if that has anything to do with the trades that you guys got going down between you and E-Thugs. All right, so here's where the graphics are going to get a little different than what we're used to seeing, but bear with me. We are going to go through the games of the week in the WRL. That is our redraft league. We're going to start with the Phoenix region. You're just going to have to deal with my voice in that pretty picture for a little bit. So the game of the week that we had in the Phoenix region was the Scorpions versus Mosbius Designs. The margin of victory there, 1.7 points. Final score was 122.74 to 121.04. In the Cerberus region, no real close games there, but Totally Turtley was the highest scoring team of the week in the region. She defeated the Gridiron Grinders 155 to 111. And then in the Sasquatch region, super close game between Lucky Ass Ferg and Music City Miracles. Ferg got the win, 141.84 to 140.06. Margin of victory there was 1.78 points. In the Banshees region, no real close games there either, but the third highest scoring team in all of the WRL, the New York Jackets, defeated the Average Joes 182 to 106. And then in our final region, the Dragons region, had a close game in the Dragons region, and the second highest scoring team in all the WRL, Carolina Nation, knocked off last year's world champion, the Lunatics. Final score there was 184.98 to 182.84. Margin of victory was 2.14 points. Highest scoring team of the week in all of the WRL was a Mexican midget that came out of the Phoenix region with 186.34 points. So the part that you all loved last year, and we're bringing it back again this year, is the top 25 rankings in the WRL. Let's bring those up for you all to look at. So here are your power rankings for the week one of the WRL. Here's how we're doing the power rankings this year. I know Damien out there with us as well. Work had me distracted, but I'm here now. Let's go. Glad to see you here. So I know that I think we had put in the rule set that we were going to do the same thing that we had done last year, which I think was just wins times the all play record. But I sat down and I had some conversations with a couple of different commissioners, and I'll pull this back up for you in a second, with a couple of different commissioners. And then I sat down with my sister, who is a statistics professor, and asked her for some advice. Been asking her for a couple of years, actually, for some advice. And we finally, Damien says he played the midgets. Let me put this up here. It said he played the midgets, so you ended up getting beat by the team that had the highest score. But I sat down and talked to my statistics professor sister, and I also got on ChatGPT and asked them for some advice. And when it all came down to it, and we peeled back the layers and stuff like that, there was one particular scoring system that kind of kept showing its face in all of the ideas that we had. And I like to affectionately call it the CBS system, because whenever we used to do power rankings, when we did play FSA on CBS, which we did a couple of times, it was their power ranking system is what we're using this year. So let me see if I can explain it to you. So what you're going to do is you're going to take all 60 teams that are in the WRL, and then you're going to base it on three pieces of data, three criteria. It's going to be your win-loss record, your total points for, and then your all-play record. And here's what happens. You will rank from first to worst everybody, all 60 teams in win-loss record, and then you will give points from 60 all the way down to 1 in order. Now, in this case, because we had 30 winners and 30 losers in the first week, you have to average that out. So in this case, all of the winners this week ended up with 45.5 points, and all of the losers ended up getting 15.5 points for that particular category. And then, and still ranked. I need to know what you're, tell me what you mean, Toby, there. And then what we end up doing is we then sort for points from first to worst, and we give you 60 points all the way down to 1 point. If there's any ties, you end up sharing that position. And then we do the same thing with the all play record. We go from first to worst, and we give you 60 points all the way down to 1 point. And then what we do is we add those three out of 60 possible points together, and each one of those for each team. And then we divide by 60, or we divide by 180. The reason we divide by 180 is if you were the leader in all three categories, you would have 60, 60, 60, and you would divide by 180, and that would give you 1.000. The point of that is to try to give you a BCS looking type number. And then I'm going to, I don't have the Excel document for you all to look at. A couple people said they've been wanting to look at the graphics instead. I'm still trying to figure out if you would rather have the Excel spreadsheet put up there on the power rankings thing, or if you would want the graphic that I'm going to show you again. Yeah, so, and he was still ranked. I see what you're saying now, Toby. He's talking about Mad Scientist. Yeah, we're actually going to talk about that here in just a second. It's one of my little hot buttons I want to talk about on this. I had the third highest score in the division. Yeah, and he's not the only one that made it, even with the loss. So let's pull this back up again. We'll kind of go through it. So hopefully you all understood the explanation of how we came up with the power rankings this year. If you don't, ask your questions, and I'll elaborate for you as we're going through this. The reason you see the Phoenix out there on the left-hand side is because the Mexican Midgets is in that region, and they are our number one ranking team after week 1. So number of teams from each of the region, the Phoenix have 6. The Cerberus have 6, but the Cerberus don't get started until number 8 in the rankings. The Sasquatch have 4. The Banshees have 5. And the Dragons have 4. And then just as Toby was elaborating on there, interesting, there's 2 teams that actually had losses, and that's the Lunatics at 17 and the Mad Scientist at 21. Because even with their losses at 15.5 points that they got for the win-loss record, their points for and their all-play record was high enough to be able to still put them in the top 25. So 17 and 21 both took losses, but they are in the top 25. So we'll go back. And if you want, you could throw it up here in the chat tonight, or throw it over on Discord if you want. How would you rather see this? Would you rather see the Excel document with the math on it, or would you like to see the graphic placed on MFL? And whichever you all decide, I'll throw it up there sometime tomorrow and get it going. So that ends all of the stuff that we had for the WRL. I want to call attention to 2 games in the APFL. I got some graphics for you on that one too. In the AFC game of the week, the Cincinnati Cats and the Tennessee Spartans faced off against each other. The Cats got the win by 0.04 points. That equates to 1 yard passing in fantasy numbers. It doesn't really get much closer than that, because even a 1 yard rush gets you 0.1 points. So that is pretty daggone close. Damien says math makes his eyes hurt. I like the graphic. That is a great graphic. I think this one turned out really, really well. I did, before I do the NFC one, I'll pull myself back up. Since Damien said that, I appreciate that, by you saying that, by the way. So I went so far as before the first week of the season, when I still had some minutes left on Mid-Journey to do versus for all of the teams in the APFL for week 1, because I didn't know what we were going to use for the highlight. And I think I've got it to the point now where I can probably pick out our games of the week, probably one on each side, or if we need to do multiples or whatever, and then get Mid-Journey to give us some nice graphics. So we'll pull this one back up since Damien liked it so much. But that's not the only one we got. And because Damien, you're sitting here watching this, we got one for you as well. So the game of the week in the NFC, We had the last two champions in the APFL from year 1 and year 2, which was the first year was the Seattle Raptors, and this past year was the Green Bay Cheeseheads, which is Damien's team. Wasn't much of a fight, I hate to say. And Damien did come out on top. So the Cheeseheads get that 94-78. We'll let that graphic sit there for a second as well. But some cool mentions that I wanted to throw out there. And I got to thank Toby for these as well. Toby fed me a lot of great information this week. So Toby, I appreciate you. All three of the teams that were involved in the dispersal draft, which was Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Jacksonville, all got wins in the APFL this week, which is pretty crazy because we kind of talked about how those teams really just kind of seemed to push the talent around between the three of them. And they didn't have the greatest of seasons last year, which is kind of why they were involved in the dispersal draft. And they all still came out with wins this week. So good piece of information. Again, Toby, thank you for that one. So I got a new little graphic that I want to show you all. What we're calling this is the APFL undefeated graphic. Kind of borrowed this idea off of something that I saw on social media from the NFL. Here are the teams that are left undefeated in the APFL. So instead of these splitting these up, AFC at top and NFC at the bottom, which was actually an idea of Toby, I had already had half of this done before he suggested it. I did it in alphabetical order, just like the graphic that I saw for the NFL earlier today. Did it all in alphabetical order, regardless of conference. And here's where we're at. Teams that are in color, to include the Raiders, or the Marauders, because even though it looks like it might be black and white, that's actually their color scheme. Yeah, I do. You didn't miss it. I'll bring it back up in a second. You know what? I'm going to leave that comment up there for a second. What I found funny about doing this is how many teams in the front part of the alphabet, as we're doing this by cities, are still undefeated, and how many people in the latter part of the alphabet are already out and not undefeated. We are going to keep this going all the way until we're down to the last team that takes the first loss of the year. So expect that graphic to show up every week with a little bit more black and white on it each time. And then an idea that Toby and I were talking about as well. So I got to give him credit for this one as well. I had asked him, because he is the NFC director, right? So I asked him, I said, do we do power rankings again this year for the APFL? And it was funny. And just as I said that, he sent me a text back, says, I was just about to ask you that. And I was like, I don't feel like it serves very much purpose. We're showing the top 10 teams out of 36, not a big deal. I said, what if we do something a little bit different? What if we show the playoffs every single week as they would be if we were to go to the playoffs that week? So the top 7 teams in each one of the conferences, I think that means a little bit more to you all than just showing the top 10 power rankings. So here's what that graphic looks like. And then you're going to probably ask, well, how did you get to this? And let me pull this up and show it to you. Like everybody played out of conference this week. How were you able to figure this out? So and Toby, again, in all of his infinite wisdom, said, hey, we're trying to emulate the NFL as much as we can. So let's go through the tiebreaker rules that the NFL has. And we get all the way through, I think, 5 or 6 steps. And we get to the step that says to figure out whenever you have teams that are tied like this across conferences, the best way is to rank the teams. And this is how it's supposed to be done. You're supposed to rank the teams from first to worst in number of points scored. And then again, first to worst in points allowed. And then what you do is reverse of the way we're doing the power rankings in the WRL. You give the number 1 team in points for a point, and the number 1 team in the least amount of points allowed 1 point. And then you rank those down. And then what you do is you add those 2 numbers together, and whoever has the lowest number is the person that ends up breaking that tie. So as we go through all of that, and we go through the wins and we go through the losses this week, and we go through what that looks like for points for and points against, here's what we end up coming up with. You can see the AFC side on the left-hand side with the Jacksonville right now would end up getting the first round bye on the AFC side. And I think Toby likes this part more than anything. He is getting the first round bye on the NFC side if we were to go to the playoffs this week. Interesting things to point out on this side is the AFC South has 3 out of its 4 teams in the playoffs, and the NFC North has 3 out of its 4 teams in the playoffs. That's what the seedings would actually be if we were to go today. And we are going to keep this up to date for you guys every single week as we go through the season all the way to playoff time. I think this is a better way for you to look at it versus just doing a top 10 in the power rankings. This will give you a playoff picture every single week. And then we'll get to be able to play in with those tiebreakers and everything like that the NFL does and that we also use as well. People can ask the questions like, why this, why that? And we can answer it right here. And then when it's time for the playoffs, it's already done. We don't have to worry about building it from scratch. I do want to highlight a couple of games since we're sticking with the APFL for a little bit for week 2. We go into divisional play in the APFL. There are some teams that are facing off against each other, teams that are still undefeated. That means teams are going to come out of here still undefeated. So we're going to have a couple of them still in color. That's Houston and Indianapolis are playing against each other, both teams undefeated. And then also on the AFC side, we got the LA Warhorse and the Las Vegas Marauders playing against each other. And then we have 2 such games in the NFC side as well. Dallas and Philadelphia playing against each other. And then this game that I'm about to bring up right now, got another great graphic for you, between the Green Bay Cheeseheads and the Detroit Pride. When I wrote this script earlier today and you went out and looked at the point spread on MFL, it said the point spread was 0.0. When you look at that, you would think that nobody had a lineup set. However, when you went in, they both had their lineup set. This is how close this game is going to be this weekend if MFL's projection is correct. The Cheeseheads, by their projections, are getting a win by 0.03 points with a final score of 94.87 to 94.84. Another sweet graphic for us to look at there. Going to be a fun game. I'm definitely paying attention to that this weekend. And I do believe that is the end for the graphics. So you're all going to be stuck looking at my face the rest of the show. And that is also the end of the APFL highlights. I want to give one highlight in the F3L. F3L is going to become more and more of a regular inside this show once the season is moving along now. When we gotten through, that one is nice too, man. You know what I'm really upset about is I thought what we built for you for the Cheeseheads was great with the Frost Giants and the gold colors on him and stuff like that. But no matter how much I work with Midjourney, I cannot get that same form to show back up again. And it doesn't matter how many times I feed it that image that we already had for you. I cannot get that image to come back. So what you're going to see is something a little bit more monster-like instead for the year. Probably for you as you come up, and I'm sure this probably isn't going to be the last time that we mention you. So F3L, we're going to put more and more work into the F3L. I didn't want to do a whole lot of graphic work this week because I wasn't even sure if the way I was trying to present this was actually going to work. It looks like it's doing so far so good. Looks like this might be our workaround to having to pay the $36 a month. Hopefully nobody tells StreamYard this. The only thing that we do have to deal with is their duck up in the corner right there. Which I guess that's kind of a small price to pay versus $36 a month. Everything else it looks like that we can do, we can throw videos in there. I can share a presentation. All of this is done in PowerPoint right now. Working off of 3 screens. I've got the PowerPoint presentation over here. I've got the actual viewable slides in the 65-inch across the TV, the room here. I've got you guys on my right monitor on the right-hand side, script on the right monitor, left-hand side. Everything is working great right now. Fingers crossed that it stays this way. Back to the F3L. So game of the week there was more about who put up the most points. Ohio Glory, the only team in the F3L putting up over 500 points. He ended up scoring 501 points against the Indiana Firebirds, who put up 465 in the loss. And again, we will have more to show you next week on the F3L side. So before we move into NFL week 2, and that's the time where I normally swap out the hats. Yes, Damien, I'm wearing a lot of cocks. I wanted to make sure that I was wearing something comfortable and that I could sweat in at baseball practice. And y'all caught me just coming straight from there. Even got Gamecock shorts on right now, so I had to match from head to toe. So that's what you get on Wednesday nights. Probably not going to see much of a change out of me. I'm going to be coming straight from practice here. Thank you to Coach Gerard for letting me go a couple minutes early. That way I can get to you guys. I literally came in with 9 minutes to spare before the show started. So, all right, let's get to that NFL week 2. So Thursday night football tomorrow night, we got Buffalo at Miami. Miami is favored by 2.5. He got inspired by his big PP. Yes, I did, which is why the cocks came out everywhere. Hey, congratulations on having that number 1 seed in the playoffs right now as well. So Buffalo at Miami. Miami favored by 2.5. I don't care. I don't care how much they're favored by. Still picking Buffalo Bills to win this game. There we go. Buffalo on the head. Take away some cocks now. I'm feeling a little bit, maybe. Sunday night football, we got Chicago at Houston. Houston favored by 6, taking Houston all day on that one. Chicago's game 1 win was a fluke in my eyes. I don't, that might be their only win all year. I don't know. I might be talking out my ass whenever I say that, but I don't believe that they're going to do well this year. I don't care how much talent is on that team right now. And then Atlanta at Philly. Everybody thought that Kirk Cousins was going to be the big savior there in Atlanta. It didn't really show that during week 1. Philadelphia looked pretty good, and Saquon Barkley looked pretty good for them. They are favored by 6.5, and I'm taking Philly in that game as well. And I honestly forgot to do my rundown of whoever I predicted for the games last week. So I couldn't even tell you who played in primetime and if I got them right or not. I'll catch up with that next week. No big deal. Let's do a baseball update real quick. No graphics for that either. Might have that for next week as we're rounding out the baseball season. We are in the first round of the playoffs. 6 teams go to the playoffs. Top 2 seeds get buys in the first round. That is the Reds and the Giants getting the first round buys. Braves, number 3 seed, are up on the number 6 seed Yankees right now. Whenever I checked it, right about 2:00 today, as they were getting a couple of games underway. Braves up 78-34. And in the 4 versus 5 game, that's the Cubs versus the Diamondbacks. Cubs being 4, Diamondbacks being 5. Cubs are up right now 63-41. I can tell you, it does not matter which team comes out of this first round of the playoffs. It is going to be a dogfight in the second round for the final 4 teams. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a consolation bracket going on right now as well. I do not have an update for that yet, but I will get that for you all for next week. Speaking of next week, we will be back for our regularly scheduled program on the 18th at 8:30 p.m. East Coast time. However, now that we've got this figured out, we will be back for our second installment of the end of the third quarter. That will be on Sunday night, 15 September at 7:30 p.m. Baseball and me and Eric Talbot playing for. Oh, that's awesome. Love it. How are you? We could talk offline. I was wondering how you guys are running that one over there on that side. Well, since we're sitting there, we're going to talk about baseball for just a second. I was going to bring it up shortly on Discord anyways. So since we have hit the playoffs, and I was going to wait until after the season was done, but somebody brought it up a couple of times on Discord. I started asking, now are you guys doing it by categories? If I remember right, you guys are doing it by categories, right? Or are you guys doing it straight points head to head? So I started asking the APBL people who was coming back next year. We've got a couple of people that are going to dip out. I think we're going to end up losing 3 out of the 12, so we're down to 9. So the hope is to get growth beyond 12 for next year, but we've got to replace the 3 that we lost first, and then we could build from there. So if you're out there watching this right now, there's 9 of you that are out there. If you're interested in playing baseball with us next year, let me know. I'll let you know which teams are already taken. For all of you who don't know about the APBL, the way we are going to run this league is that we are going to get it up to the 30 MLB teams. And once we have reached that number, even if it takes another year or so of redrafting, once we hit that 30, we are going to then do promotion and relegation, where the bottom 15 are going to get relegated down to the AAA level, and the top 15 will stay at the MLB level. And then we'll continue to add people in at the lower levels and continue to do promotion and relegation every year as we can make it happen with the teams that are coming on board. Hanley says that he's in. I'm going to assume that you're probably a Tigers fan, with you being as big of a Lions fan as you are. So hit me up. I don't know where I can have you guys hit me up. What I would like to do is go ahead and start adding those that are interested to put you in the APBL room. That way we can start talking about what next year is going to look like. So we already talked about the next broadcast. We'll be back regular show, the Fanatically Real broadcast on Wednesday night, the end of the third quarter on Sunday night. And that is the show. I would like to thank all of our sponsors, Sport Management Solutions, the Recast, who are the official music of the FSA, Nature Coast Apparel, the official apparel of FSA. And then I got to say it again. Thank you to Brandon Gums for helping us put the website together. And if you still have not gone out and check out the website, go to iplayfsa.com so you can check that out. And we will be back on Sunday for end of the third quarter, hopefully with a better look than what we had last time. And then we will be back next Wednesday with the update from the week 2 recap. Appreciate you all. Leave your comments in Discord, and we will see you on Sunday. You all have a great night.